My name is Brielle, I'm 28 years old, and I was standing in my parents' destroyed living room at 2 in the morning, staring at the chaos my brother Tyler's graduation party had left behind. Red Solo cups littered every surface, pizza boxes stacked like towers, and something sticky covered the hardwood floors my mother treasured. My parents had just informed me that cleaning this disaster was my responsibility while my precious 26-year-old brother slept peacefully upstairs. 28 years of being the family scapegoat had led to this moment, but they had no idea what I was about to discover in Tyler's room. Before we dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next when favoritism in families goes too far. Let's get into it. Growing up in the Henderson household meant understanding one fundamental rule that was never spoken but always enforced: Tyler could do no wrong, and I could do nothing right. From the moment my parents brought home their precious baby boy when I was 2 years old, my world shifted permanently. Tyler wasn't just the younger child, he became the sun around which our entire family orbit revolved, leaving me floating somewhere in the cold darkness of space. The signs started early and never stopped. When Tyler wanted the bigger bedroom at age 8, I was moved to the basement room with no windows. When he crashed Dad's car at 16, they bought him a newer, better one while I rode the bus through college. Tyler's report cards with C- grades earned celebration dinners, while my straight-A honor roll achievements got a brief nod of acknowledgement. Every Christmas morning looked like Tyler's personal shopping spree while I unwrapped practical gifts like socks and school supplies. College funding revealed the depth of their favoritism in devastating detail. My parents informed me that they couldn't afford to help with my education, so I worked 2 jobs while maintaining a full course load, graduating with honors but drowning in student loan debt. Tyler, meanwhile, had his entire undergraduate degree at a private university paid in full, plus a generous monthly allowance that exceeded my part-time income. When he decided law school was his calling, they somehow found $50,000 for his first-year tuition without blinking. The irony cut deeper than any knife when Tyler dropped out after 2 semesters, claiming law school was too stressful and he needed time to find himself. Instead of disappointment, my parents showered him with understanding and support. They helped him move back home, converted the garage into a luxury apartment complete with a gaming setup that cost more than my car, and praised his courage for following his heart rather than society's expectations. 6 months ago, Tyler announced he was starting a business venture, and my parents' excitement knew no bounds. They threw dinner parties to celebrate his entrepreneurial spirit, bragged to neighbors about their innovative son, and began planning tonight's graduation party to commemorate his transition from student to businessman. The fact that nobody could explain exactly what Tyler's business involved didn't dampen their enthusiasm one bit. Tonight's party showcased 28 years of favoritism in its most concentrated form. My parents spent weeks planning every detail, hiring caterers, decorating the house like it was a wedding venue, and inviting everyone they knew to witness Tyler's success. They assigned me the role of unpaid servant, greeting guests, refilling drinks, clearing plates, and smiling through gritted teeth as Tyler basked in undeserved attention. The final humiliation came when Tyler's friend spilled red wine on Mom's white carpet and she turned to me with fury blazing in her eyes. "Brielle, clean that up immediately," she snapped in front of 30 people. "And be more careful about serving drinks near the furniture." The implication that I had caused the spill when I wasn't even in the room at the time sent whispers through the crowd. Tyler laughed loudest of all, adding insult to injury with a comment about how some people just can't handle responsibility. Standing in that destroyed living room at 2 a.m., surrounded by the evidence of Tyler's celebration while facing hours of cleanup duty alone, I finally reached my breaking point. 28 years of being the family scapegoat, of watching my younger brother receive every advantage while I fought for scraps of acknowledgement, of sacrificing my own dreams to support his golden boy status, had led to this moment of crystal clear rage. Cleaning Tyler's room felt like the ultimate insult, but I approached the task with grim determination, telling myself this would be the last time I played the role of family servant. His converted garage apartment reeked of stale beer and expensive cologne, clothes scattered across furniture that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I started with the obvious trash, empty bottles, and food containers, working my way systematically through the chaos. Behind his gaming chair, I discovered a laptop computer partially hidden under a pile of designer clothes. The screen was still active, displaying what appeared to be an email inbox filled with messages from elderly-sounding names like Dorothy, Harold, and Eugene. Curiosity overrode my better judgment as I glanced at the first few subject lines: investment confirmation, account transfer, and thank you for the opportunity. My blood turned to ice water as I began reading the emails in detail. Tyler had created an elaborate cryptocurrency investment scheme specifically targeting senior citizens, promising incredible returns on something called golden coin that would revolutionize retirement planning. The emails revealed a sophisticated operation involving fake testimonials, doctored financial documents, and carefully scripted phone conversations designed to build trust with vulnerable victims. One email thread with an 82-year-old widow named Dorothy showed Tyler's true character in horrifying detail. She had invested her late husband's life insurance money, believing Tyler's promises that golden coin would double her investment within 6 months. Tyler's responses were masterfully crafted to exploit her grief and financial fears, using phrases like "your husband would want you to be financially secure" and "I'm like the son you never had, looking out for your best interests." The financial records hidden in encrypted folders painted an even more devastating picture. Tyler had stolen over $80,000 from at least 15 elderly victims, with detailed spreadsheets tracking their personal information, financial vulnerabilities, and psychological pressure points. Notes in the margins revealed his complete lack of conscience. Harold getting suspicious, need to string along 2 more weeks, and Dorothy completely trusting, can probably get another 5,000. Text messages between Tyler and his business partner revealed the depths of their cruelty. They laughed about their victims, calling them stupid old fossils and walking ATM machines. Tyler bragged about his ability to make elderly women cry with gratitude while he robbed them blind. One message read, "These old idiots will believe anything. Dorothy just thanked me for stealing her money." The most chilling discovery was Tyler's use of our family name and address for his illegal business operations. Every victim had been given our home address as the corporate headquarters of Golden Coin Industries, making my parents legally liable for his crimes without their knowledge. Banking records showed money transfers flowing through accounts in my father's name, creating a paper trail that would destroy our family's reputation and financial security. My hands shook as I photographed every email, document, and text message with my phone, understanding that I held evidence of serious federal crimes. Tyler wasn't just running a simple scam, he had created a sophisticated criminal enterprise that could result in decades in prison for fraud, elder abuse, and identity theft. The sound of footsteps on the garage stairs sent panic through my entire body as Tyler appeared in the doorway, his eyes immediately focusing on the open laptop in my hands. His casual drunken demeanor vanished instantly, replaced by cold calculation as he assessed the situation. "What are you doing with my computer, Brielle?" he asked in a voice that carried unmistakable menace. "I was cleaning and it was open," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady while my heart hammered against my ribs. "I didn't mean to see anything." The lie felt necessary as self-preservation instincts kicked in, recognizing the dangerous gleam in Tyler's eyes. Tyler moved closer, his imposing height advantage suddenly feeling threatening rather than familiar. "You always were a nosy little bitch," he said with a cruel smile. "Lucky for me, nobody would ever believe anything you say about me. Mom and Dad think you're a jealous failure who would lie about anything to bring me down." His confidence was terrifying because it was completely justified. 28 years of family dynamics had established me as the unreliable troublemaker while Tyler remained the golden child who could do no wrong. Even with photographic evidence of his crimes, my parents would find ways to explain away his guilt while blaming me for trying to destroy their precious son. "If you even think about saying anything to anyone," Tyler continued, his voice dropping to a whisper, "I'll tell Mom and Dad you planted all of this because you can't stand seeing me succeed. Who do you think they'll believe? Their perfect son or their bitter, jealous daughter who's always been envious of my achievements?" The thread hung in the air between us as Tyler carefully closed the laptop and tucked it under his arm. His smile returned as he patted my shoulder in mock affection, the gesture feeling more like a predator marking territory than brotherly comfort. "Clean up this mess and keep your mouth shut," he said. "Nobody likes a snitch, especially not family." Sunday morning arrived with the weight of impossible decisions pressing down on my shoulders as I sat in my car outside my parents' house, staring at the photographs on my phone that could destroy Tyler's life and possibly save dozens of elderly victims. Sleep had been impossible after discovering my brother's criminal enterprise, my mind racing between fear of family rejection and moral obligation to protect innocent people from ongoing fraud. The conversation started exactly as I had expected when I presented my evidence to Mom and Dad over their morning coffee. Initial shock gave way to confused denial as they struggled to process the magnitude of Tyler's crimes. Dad's face went pale as he scrolled through the photographs while Mom kept repeating, "There has to be some explanation. Tyler would never hurt anyone. These victims lost their life savings," I explained, pointing to Dorothy's heartbreaking emails. "She trusted Tyler with her husband's insurance money and now she can't afford her medications. Harold sold his house because Tyler convinced him to invest everything in fake cryptocurrency." Mom's expression shifted from confusion to defensive anger as she pushed the phone away from her face. "This doesn't look real, Brielle. Anyone could fake these emails and documents. You've always been jealous of Tyler's success, and now you're trying to frame him for crimes he didn't commit." The sound of Tyler's footsteps on the stairs ended any hope I had for rational discussion. He appeared in the kitchen doorway looking perfectly innocent, his hair still messy from sleep and confusion written across his handsome features. "What's going on?" he asked with just the right amount of concern in his voice. "Why does everyone look so upset?" Tyler's performance was masterful as he listened to my accusations with growing shock and hurt. His eyes filled with tears as he realized his own sister was trying to destroy his reputation with fabricated evidence. "I can't believe you would do this to me, Brielle," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I know you've always resented my achievements, but I never thought you'd stoop to framing me for elder abuse. She planted all of this on my computer," Tyler continued, turning to our parents with wounded betrayal in his eyes. "I caught her going through my private files last night during the party cleanup. She must have created these fake emails and documents because she can't stand seeing me succeed where she's always failed." Mom immediately wrapped Tyler in a protective embrace while Dad glared at me with disappointment that cut deeper than any knife. "How could you do this to your own brother?" Mom demanded. "Tyler has worked so hard to build his business, and you're trying to destroy everything because you're bitter about your own failures." The reversal was swift and devastating as my parents' loyalty shifted completely to Tyler's version of events. Every piece of evidence became proof of my jealousy rather than his guilt. The banking records were obviously forged, the victim emails were clearly fabricated, and the text messages were created by someone with technical skills far beyond Tyler's abilities. "Brielle has always been troubled," Dad said to Tyler in a stage whisper meant for my ears. "We've been telling the family for months that she's been struggling with mental health issues. This accusation proves she needs professional help before she hurts someone." Tyler's tears transformed into righteous anger as he demanded justice for my false accusations. "I want her out of this house," he declared. "I can't feel safe knowing she would frame her own brother for federal crimes. What if she calls the police with these lies? What if she tries to destroy our family's reputation?" The ultimatum came swift and final. "Retract my accusations completely and seek psychological help for my jealousy issues, or face complete family exile with no financial support." Mom's words felt like physical blows as she outlined the consequences of my delusions. "If you continue spreading these lies about Tyler, we'll have no choice but to cut you off entirely and inform the extended family about your mental breakdown." Tyler's smirk appeared for just a moment when our parents weren't looking, a flash of victory that confirmed everything I needed to know about his character. He had successfully manipulated the situation to make me appear unstable while painting himself as the innocent victim of sibling jealousy. The final betrayal came when Dad revealed they had already been preparing the family for my breakdown by spreading stories about my struggles with employment, relationships, and reality. Cousins, aunts, and uncles had been told that I was becoming increasingly unstable and might start making false accusations against family members. "We love you, Brielle," Mom said with tears in her eyes, "but Tyler is right. You need help, and until you get it, you can't be part of this family. We won't let you destroy Tyler's life with these paranoid fantasies." Standing in my childhood kitchen, surrounded by family photos that suddenly felt like mockeries of connection, I realized that 28 years of scapegoating had led to this inevitable moment. My parents would never believe their golden child was capable of serious crimes, and my history as the family problem made me the perfect suspect for mental instability. Tyler walked me to the front door with false sympathy radiating from his performance. "I really hope you get the help you need," he said loud enough for our parents to hear. Then he whispered, "Try to report me and I'll make sure you end up in a psychiatric hospital. Nobody will believe the crazy sister who tried to frame her successful brother." 3 days after my family exile, I sat in the sterile waiting room of the FBI's cybercrime division, clutching a folder containing printed copies of every piece of evidence from Tyler's computer. The fluorescent lighting made everything look harsh and unforgiving, matching my emotional state as I prepared to report my own brother for federal crimes that could destroy what remained of our family. Detective Maria Rodriguez emerged from the elevator with the kind of commanding presence that immediately put me at ease. Her dark eyes assessed me quickly but without judgment as she led me to a small conference room lined with white boards covered in complex diagrams. "Tell me what you've discovered," she said simply, and for the first time in days, someone was prepared to listen without prejudice. The evidence spread across the conference table painted a picture even more disturbing than I had initially understood. Detective Rodriguez examined each document with professional intensity, making notes and asking pointed questions about Tyler's operation. Her expertise revealed details I had missed, including sophisticated money laundering techniques and identity theft methods that elevated Tyler's crimes to the federal level. "Your brother isn't running a simple scam," Detective Rodriguez explained as she organized the evidence into careful stacks. "This is a multimillion-dollar criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable populations with surgical precision. The psychological manipulation tactics he's using are textbook elder abuse strategies that suggest professional training or extensive research." Further investigation revealed the scope of Tyler's operation extended far beyond the victims I had discovered. Database searches using the business name and our family address uncovered complaints filed in 6 different states, with estimated losses exceeding $300,000. Tyler had been running his fraud network for over 18 months, refining his techniques and expanding his victim base with methodical efficiency. The most devastating discovery came when Detective Rodriguez ran background checks on my personal information. Tyler had been using my identity for credit card applications, loan requests, and business registrations, destroying my credit score and creating a criminal financial history in my name. Employment background checks that had mysteriously failed suddenly made sense as Tyler's fraudulent activities appeared on my record. "He's been setting you up as a scapegoat from the beginning," Detective Rodriguez explained, showing me documents bearing my forged signature. "If his operation ever got exposed, you were positioned to take the blame as the mastermind while he played the innocent younger brother who trusted his sister's business advice." The victims' stories emerged through careful investigation, each one more heartbreaking than the last. Dorothy, the 82-year-old widow, had been forced to move in with relatives after losing her home mortgage payment to Tyler's fake investment scheme. Harold, a 78-year-old veteran, had emptied his disability compensation savings believing he was securing his wife's medical care. Cancer patient Eugene had depleted his treatment fund chasing Tyler's promises of quick returns. My temporary living situation with my college friend Zoe provided some stability, but Tyler's influence continued poisoning every aspect of my life. He had contacted my former employers with concerns about my mental health, making future job prospects nearly impossible. Social media posts carefully crafted to look like wellness checks actually spread rumors about my psychological breakdown throughout our extended family. The family wedding of our cousin Jennifer became another battlefield where Tyler's manipulation reached new heights. He attended with our parents, playing the role of concerned brother worried about my paranoid delusions. Relatives who had known me since childhood began treating me with the careful distance reserved for unstable family members, their sympathy mixed with fear that I might make false accusations against them next. "She's been struggling since college," I overheard Tyler explaining to our aunt. The family business success she always expected never materialized, and she's begun creating elaborate fantasies about cryptocurrency schemes and elderly victims. We're hoping professional help can restore her connection to reality. The isolation felt complete as even extended family members who had previously supported me began questioning my version of events. Tyler's charm offensive included concerned phone calls, thoughtful text messages, and carefully worded social media posts expressing hope for my recovery. He positioned himself as the loving brother trying to save his mentally ill sister while protecting elderly people from my dangerous delusions. Detective Rodriguez became my lifeline to sanity as her investigation confirmed every detail of Tyler's criminal operation. Federal databases revealed similar schemes operating in other states, suggesting Tyler might be connected to a larger criminal network specializing in elder fraud. The evidence was overwhelming, but building a federal case would take months of careful preparation. "Your family doesn't understand the legal reality," Detective Rodriguez explained during one of our meetings. "When federal charges are filed, everyone connected to the business operations becomes a potential target. Your parents' financial accounts, your family home used as the business address, and your father's name on Tyler's banking records create serious legal liability." The investigation timeline created unbearable tension as Tyler continued victimizing elderly people while the FBI built their case. Each day of delay meant more retirees losing their life savings to my brother's sophisticated fraud operation. The moral weight of inaction battled against the knowledge that premature action could compromise the investigation and allow Tyler to escape justice. Uncle Frank's unexpected phone call came 3 weeks into the FBI investigation, his voice carrying the nervous tension of someone breaking years of enforced silence. "I need to meet with you privately," he whispered into the phone. "There are things about your family you don't know, things that explain why Tyler gets away with everything." The coffee shop meeting felt like a scene from a spy movie as Uncle Frank, Dad's older brother, glanced nervously around the nearly empty restaurant before sliding a manila envelope across the table. His hands shook slightly as he explained that Tyler's current crimes were just the latest chapter in a decades-long pattern of criminal behavior enabled by our parents' willful blindness. "Your father has been embezzling from the family construction business for 8 years, Uncle Frank revealed, his voice barely audible above the coffee shop's background noise. "The money goes directly to Tyler's lifestyle and covers up his previous crimes. Your parents aren't just enablers, they're active participants in a criminal conspiracy." The documents inside the envelope painted a picture of systematic theft that staggered me with its scope and duration. Dad had been inflating material costs, creating fake vendor accounts, and skimming cash payments from customers, stealing over $500,000 from the business he co-owned with Uncle Frank. Every dollar had gone toward supporting Tyler's expensive tastes and cleaning up his messes. Tyler's gambling addiction emerged as the driving force behind the family's descent into criminality. Underground poker games, offshore sports betting, and casino debts had created a financial black hole that consumed everything our parents could steal or borrow. The fancy car, expensive clothes, and luxury apartment weren't signs of business success but evidence of compulsive gambling funded by family theft. Last year alone, Tyler lost $200,000 in Las Vegas, Uncle Frank explained, showing me credit card statements and loan documents. Your parents remortgaged their house twice, emptied their retirement accounts, and started stealing from customer payments to cover his gambling debts. When that wasn't enough, they began planning to frame you for the embezzlement. The setup was already in motion according to Uncle Frank's documentation. Financial records had been carefully altered to show transfers into accounts bearing my name, creating a paper trail that would make me appear responsible for the missing money. Tyler had been telling people that I had access to business finances and might be skimming cash to support my lifestyle beyond my means. Grandparents' inheritance money that should have been distributed among all grandchildren had disappeared into Tyler's gambling debts, with our parents creating false documentation showing the money had been invested in failed business ventures. Cousins expecting their inheritance payments were told the estate was tied up in complicated legal proceedings that could take years to resolve. "I kept quiet because your father threatened to destroy me financially," Uncle Frank admitted with tears in his eyes. "He said if I exposed the theft, he would make sure I lost everything in the business dissolution. I've been trapped watching my own brother steal from the family while protecting a grandson who's destroying everyone around him." The criminal network extended beyond Tyler's elderly fraud operation to include connections with organized gambling syndicates who had been pressuring our family for debt repayment. Phone records showed regular contact between Tyler and known criminals involved in loan sharking and money laundering. Our family home had become collateral for debts that far exceeded its value. "Tyler is planning to disappear," Uncle Frank revealed with urgency that sent chills down my spine. "He's been moving money into offshore accounts and has already applied for a passport under an assumed identity. Your parents know about his escape plan and are helping him transfer the remaining stolen funds before the FBI can freeze their accounts." The timeline was accelerating toward a crisis point where Tyler would vanish with millions in stolen money while leaving our parents to face criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud conspiracy. The FBI investigation, focused on Tyler's elderly victims, had no knowledge of the deeper financial crimes that had funded his operation for years. Detective Rodriguez needed to know about the embezzlement immediately, but Uncle Frank's evidence had been obtained through careful surveillance that might not hold up in court. We needed to catch Tyler and our parents in the act of transferring stolen funds, creating irrefutable evidence of their criminal conspiracy while preventing Tyler's planned escape. "There's something else," Uncle Frank said as our meeting concluded, his voice heavy with dread. "Your parents have been telling Tyler that you're getting too close to exposing their operation. They're planning to have you committed to a psychiatric facility as soon as they can create enough evidence of your mental instability." The psychiatric commitment plan explained Tyler's recent escalation of psychological harassment and our parents' increasing emphasis on my supposed mental health crisis. If they could convince a judge I was delusional and dangerous, my accusations would be dismissed as the ravings of a mentally ill person while they completed Tyler's escape plan. Time was running out on multiple fronts as Tyler prepared to flee the country with stolen money while our parents positioned themselves to sacrifice me as the scapegoat for decades of family crimes. The FBI investigation needed to move faster than Tyler's escape timeline, or justice would slip away along with millions of dollars stolen from construction customers and elderly fraud victims. The plan Detective Rodriguez and I developed required precision timing and flawless execution as we prepared to catch Tyler and our parents in the act of transferring stolen funds. Uncle Frank's inside knowledge of the family business operations combined with FBI surveillance capabilities created our best chance to stop Tyler's escape while gathering evidence of the broader criminal conspiracy. My role required the performance of a lifetime as I called home with a tearful apology for my paranoid accusations against Tyler. Mom's relief was audible through the phone as I begged for forgiveness and claimed that therapy was helping me understand how jealousy had distorted my perception of reality. "I just want our family back together," I sobbed into the phone with practiced emotion. Tyler's ego made him eager to accept my surrender as validation of his superior intelligence and manipulation skills. "I'm glad you're finally getting the help you need," he said with magnanimous condescension during our reconciliation phone call. "I never stopped believing you could overcome your mental health challenges and become the sister I've always needed." The dinner invitation came exactly as Detective Rodriguez had predicted, with our parents eager to celebrate my recovery and Tyler's willingness to forgive my episode. The family meal would provide perfect cover for planting recording devices while gathering final evidence of the money transfer planned for the following morning. Entering my childhood home felt surreal as I hugged parents who had spent weeks telling everyone I was mentally unstable while secretly planning to frame me for embezzlement. Their warm welcomes and concerned questions about my therapy progress required tremendous self-control as I smiled and played the role of grateful daughter seeking redemption. Tyler's arrogance reached new heights during dinner as he regaled us with stories of his business success and plans for expansion. The cryptocurrency market is exploding, he explained with enthusiasm that would have been impressive if it weren't funding elder abuse. Golden coin is positioned to become the next Bitcoin, and our early investors are going to see incredible returns. The recording devices, disguised as phone chargers and coffee cup warmers, captured every word as Tyler detailed his operation with complete confidence in his family's loyalty. He described his techniques for identifying vulnerable elderly targets, the psychological pressure methods that overcame their resistance, and his satisfaction with their grateful responses to being robbed. "The best part is how trusting they are," Tyler laughed while describing Dorothy's weekly phone calls. "She actually thanked me last week for taking such good care of her investment. These old people are so desperate for human connection that they'll believe anything from someone who pretends to care about them." Dad's confession about the construction business embezzlement came during dessert when Tyler questioned whether enough money was available for his planned escape. "We've moved $300,000 from the business accounts over the past 6 months, Dad admitted with casual criminality. Frank suspects something, but he can't prove anything without access to the offshore accounts. Mom's contribution revealed the depth of their planning as she outlined the psychiatric commitment strategy designed to neutralize my threat to their operation. Dr. Stevens has agreed to evaluate Brielle based on our documentation of her mental health decline, she explained. Once she's committed for observation, her accusations will be dismissed as delusional episodes requiring medication. The conversation turned to specific details of Tyler's money transfer scheduled for early morning, when bank surveillance would be minimal and transaction monitoring systems less likely to flag suspicious activity. Tyler planned to move $2.5 million to accounts in countries without extradition treaties, ensuring his permanent escape from American law enforcement. "After tomorrow, I'll be completely untouchable," Tyler boasted with wine loosening his tongue. "The FBI can investigate their elderly fraud case all they want, but they'll never find enough evidence to build charges against someone who doesn't exist anymore." Dad raised his glass in a toast to Tyler's successful escape, expressing pride in his son's intelligence and resourcefulness. "You've always been special, Tyler," he said with genuine emotion. "Your mother and I are honored to help you achieve the freedom you deserve." The final piece of evidence came when Tyler detailed his plans for maintaining contact with the family while living internationally. Encrypted communication apps would allow coordination of ongoing criminal activities, including expansion of the elderly fraud operation into European markets where regulations were less stringent. "Brielle was always too stupid to understand business," Tyler said while looking directly at me with cruel satisfaction. "She thought she could destroy our family with her jealous fantasies, but she just made us stronger. When I'm living on a private beach in Thailand, I'll think about how her mental breakdown actually helped perfect our escape plan. My performance required superhuman control." As I smiled and nodded while my brother described plans to continue victimizing elderly people from international safe havens. The recording devices captured his complete confession along with our parents' enthusiastic support for ongoing criminal activities. Detective Rodriguez confirmed through text message that FBI surveillance teams had recorded the entire dinner conversation from vehicles parked throughout our neighborhood. Tyler's detailed confession, combined with Dad's admission of embezzlement and Mom's psychiatric commitment conspiracy, provided overwhelming evidence for federal charges against the entire family. The trap was set for morning execution as Tyler prepared to transfer stolen money while FBI agents positioned themselves to catch him in the act. My family's decades of criminal behavior and psychological abuse were about to face the full weight of federal justice. 6:30 a.m. arrived with FBI surveillance teams already positioned around every possible exit route as Tyler prepared for his final money transfer at First National Bank downtown. Detective Rodriguez confirmed through radio communication that federal agents had surrounded the building while maintaining the appearance of normal Monday morning business operations. My position in the FBI Mobile Command Unit provided a perfect view of Tyler's arrival at the bank, his confident stride suggesting complete ignorance of the investigation closing around him. He carried a briefcase containing fake identification documents and account numbers for the offshore transfers that would supposedly secure his escape from American justice. The irony was perfect as Tyler entered the same bank where Dorothy had withdrawn her late husband's insurance money based on his fraudulent investment promises. Security cameras captured his casual demeanor as he approached the business teller window, completely unaware that federal agents were recording his every movement and conversation. Transfer initiated, came the radio report as Tyler began moving the first installment of stolen money into his Cayman Islands account. Federal banking monitors immediately flagged the transaction while Tyler remained oblivious to the digital net closing around his criminal operation. Dad's arrival 30 minutes later triggered the second phase of the FBI operation as agents followed him into the bank where he planned to transfer construction business funds into Tyler's escape accounts. Uncle Frank had provided the FBI with complete documentation of the embezzled money, making Dad's participation in the money laundering conspiracy impossible to deny. The coordinated arrest happened with stunning efficiency as federal agents simultaneously entered the bank and surrounded our family home where Mom waited to help destroy evidence. Tyler's shocked expression was visible through the command unit's video feed as handcuffs replaced his briefcase while agents read federal fraud and conspiracy charges. FBI. You're under arrest for wire fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, the lead agent announced loud enough for everyone in the bank to hear. Tyler's face transformed from confident arrogance to panicked disbelief as the reality of his situation penetrated his delusional bubble. Dad's arrest happened moments later as he attempted to flee through the bank's rear exit, only to find federal agents waiting with additional charges of embezzlement and tax evasion. The construction business records Uncle Frank had provided created an unbreakable paper trail linking Dad to years of systematic theft from customers and business partners. Our family home became a crime scene as FBI agents executed search warrants for computers, financial documents, and communication records. Mom's attempt to delete files from Tyler's laptop was interrupted by digital forensics specialists who had already created complete copies of all electronic evidence. Local news crews arrived within hours, transforming our quiet neighborhood into a media circus as reporters competed for the best angle on the family fraud ring story. Neighbors who had admired Tyler's apparent success gathered in horrified fascination as FBI agents carried boxes of evidence from the house they had considered a pillar of respectability. Tyler's breakdown was spectacular and public as he attempted to blame me for the entire criminal operation while federal agents loaded him into their vehicle. "My sister set me up," he screamed for the cameras. "She planted all the evidence because she's mentally ill. Check her psychiatric records." The psychological evaluation Tyler demanded actually strengthened the federal case as court-appointed psychiatrists found no evidence of mental illness in my testimony while documenting Tyler's antisocial personality traits and complete lack of remorse for his victims. His attempts to manipulate the evaluation process only reinforced the prosecution's portrayal of him as a calculating predator. Dad's final betrayal came when he tried to negotiate a plea deal by claiming Tyler had forced him to embezzle money through threats and psychological manipulation. The recorded dinner conversations destroyed his defense as agents played back his proud confession and enthusiastic support for Tyler's criminal activities. Mom's arrest warrant was executed at the hospital where she had checked herself in for stress-related symptoms after Tyler's arrest. Her attempt to fake mental illness mirrored Tyler's strategy but failed when FBI agents presented recorded evidence of her psychiatric commitment conspiracy against me. The media coverage expanded beyond local news as national networks picked up the story of the golden child criminal family whose decades of favoritism had enabled millions in theft and fraud. Tyler's handsome face appeared on television screens across the country, transforming him from local success story to national symbol of privileged criminality. Extended family members who had believed Tyler's lies about my mental health crisis suddenly understood the truth as federal charges detailed the scope of our parents' criminal conspiracy. Cousins who had expected inheritance payments learned their money had been stolen to fund Tyler's gambling addiction and luxury lifestyle. Uncle Frank's courage in exposing the family crimes earned him protection under federal whistleblower statutes, while investigation into the construction business revealed additional victims among customers who had overpaid for projects due to Dad's inflated billing schemes. The offshore accounts Tyler thought would provide escape routes became evidence of money laundering, as international banking cooperation allowed federal investigators to freeze assets in multiple countries. His careful escape planning had actually created a detailed record of criminal conspiracy that would be used against him at trial. 6 months later, I sat in the federal courthouse gallery watching Tyler fidget nervously at the defendant's table as prosecutors outlined the full scope of his crimes to a jury of 12 citizens who looked increasingly horrified with each revelation. His expensive suit couldn't disguise the weight loss and stress lines that marked his transformation from confident golden child to desperate criminal facing decades in federal prison. The prosecution's case was overwhelming as Detective Rodriguez testified about discovering over 50 elderly victims across 8 states, with total losses exceeding $4.7 million. Video testimony from Tyler's victims created devastating emotional impact as Dorothy described losing her home and Harold detailed his wife's inability to afford cancer treatment because of Tyler's theft. Tyler's defense attorney attempted to portray him as a troubled young man led astray by gambling addiction and family pressure, but the recorded dinner conversations destroyed any sympathy the jury might have felt. His cold laughter while describing elderly victims and his detailed plans for continued international fraud revealed a calculating predator without conscience or remorse. My testimony provided crucial context about Tyler's lifelong pattern of manipulation and his parents' enabling behavior that had escalated from childhood favoritism to adult criminal conspiracy. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court confirmed my mental stability while documenting Tyler's antisocial personality disorder and complete lack of empathy for his victims. Dad's separate trial for embezzlement and conspiracy charges proceeded simultaneously in another courtroom where Uncle Frank testified about years of systematic theft from the family construction business. Customer victims described losing their life savings to inflated billing and fake material charges while Dad diverted their money to fund Tyler's criminal lifestyle. Mom's psychiatric commitment conspiracy charges earned special attention from prosecutors as evidence of calculated abuse designed to silence a whistleblower and protect ongoing criminal activities. The court-appointed psychiatrist who evaluated her found no evidence of mental illness but documented manipulative behavior consistent with criminal conspiracy. Tyler's final attempt to blame his victims backfired spectacularly during cross-examination when prosecutors played recordings of his cruel laughter and detailed descriptions of psychological manipulation techniques. His claim that elderly victims were too trusting for their own good revealed the depth of his moral bankruptcy to a horrified jury. The sentencing phase allowed victims to address Tyler directly about the impact of his crimes on their lives and families. Dorothy's testimony was particularly powerful as she described living in her grandson's basement after losing her home and being unable to afford prescription medications for her diabetes and heart condition. "I trusted you like my own grandson," Dorothy said while facing Tyler across the courtroom. "You called me every week, asked about my health, and made me feel like someone cared about my future. Instead, you were calculating how to steal everything my husband worked 60 years to save." Tyler's response showed no genuine remorse as he blamed his gambling addiction and family pressure while continuing to minimize his victims' suffering. His final statement to the court included subtle attempts to shift responsibility to me as the unstable sister who had exposed his operation out of jealousy rather than moral concern. Judge Patricia Morrison's sentencing was swift and decisive as she imposed 12 years in federal prison for Tyler, followed by 10 years of supervised probation and restitution requirements that would follow him for the rest of his life. "Your crimes targeted the most vulnerable members of our society with sophisticated cruelty," she stated. "The psychological manipulation you employed shows a level of calculated evil that demands severe consequences." Dad received 5 years for embezzlement and conspiracy charges, with additional civil liability for stolen construction funds that would require selling the family home and all assets to repay victims. Uncle Frank's courage in exposing the crimes earned him control of the construction business and protection from financial liability. Mom's 3-year sentence for conspiracy and attempted psychiatric commitment reflected her role as an enabler rather than primary criminal, but her conviction ended any possibility of maintaining the family's reputation in their community. The house would be sold to pay restitution, leaving her homeless upon release. The civil lawsuits that followed criminal convictions ensured that Tyler's victims would recover at least partial compensation through asset seizure and ongoing garnishment of any future earnings. The offshore accounts he thought would provide escape routes became sources of victim restitution under international asset recovery agreements. Tyler's removal from the courtroom in federal custody marked the end of 28 years of golden child privilege that had escalated from simple favoritism to sophisticated criminal enterprise. His final look toward the gallery held none of his former arrogance, only the bitter recognition that his manipulation tactics had finally failed against federal investigators and jury members immune to his charm. Extended family members who had believed his lies about my mental health crisis apologized publicly and privately for their role in enabling his psychological abuse. The family gatherings that had once centered around Tyler's achievements were replaced by memorials for the trust and innocence his crimes had destroyed. 18 months after Tyler's sentencing, I stood in the conference room of the National Elder Fraud Prevention Center, addressing a room full of federal investigators, social workers, and victim advocates who had gathered to hear my presentation on family enablement of financial crimes. The transformation from family scapegoat to expert witness felt surreal but deeply meaningful as I shared lessons learned from our family's descent into criminality. My new career in victim advocacy had grown from personal experience into professional expertise as I helped other families recognize and address the warning signs of manipulation and financial abuse. The position with the Elder Protection Agency provided both emotional healing and practical purpose as I worked to prevent other elderly people from suffering the devastating losses Tyler's victims had experienced. Uncle Frank had become the father figure I had always needed but never had, offering emotional support and business mentorship as he rebuilt the construction company's reputation following Dad's embezzlement scandal. Our relationship proved that family connections could be based on mutual respect and shared values rather than biological obligation and toxic dynamics. The letters from federal prison arrived monthly, with Tyler's correspondence oscillating between self-pity and continued attempts to manipulate my emotions through false remorse and fabricated mental health crises. His refusal to accept responsibility for his crimes or acknowledge his victims' suffering confirmed the wisdom of maintaining complete no contact despite his persistent attempts to restart our relationship. Mom and Dad's letters from their respective correctional facilities showed slightly more genuine remorse but continued to focus primarily on their own suffering rather than the devastation they had enabled through decades of favoritism and criminal conspiracy. Their requests for family reconciliation were met with polite but firm boundaries as I prioritized my own healing over their emotional needs. Detective Rodriguez had become a close friend whose support during the investigation had evolved into a romantic relationship built on mutual respect and shared commitment to justice. Our connection proved that trust was possible after betrayal, and that healthy relationships could develop between people who had witnessed each other's worst moments while working toward positive outcomes. The speaking engagements at law enforcement conferences, victim advocacy workshops, and family therapy training sessions provided opportunities to transform our family's criminal history into educational resources that might prevent similar situations in other families. The shame of our past had been reframed as expertise that could protect vulnerable people from sophisticated manipulation. Dorothy's recovery had been remarkable as she rebuilt her financial security through victim restitution payments and community support services I helped her access. Our friendship had grown from shared trauma into mutual respect as she channeled her experience into volunteer work helping other elderly fraud victims navigate recovery resources and legal processes. Harold's situation had improved dramatically as well, with his wife's cancer treatment funded through crime victim compensation programs and his own advocacy work helping other veterans avoid financial scams targeting military families. His transformation from bitter victim to empowered advocate demonstrated the healing power of purpose and community connection. The family dynamics that had defined the first 28 years of my life no longer held power over my emotional well-being or life choices. The realization that biological family relationships based on manipulation and favoritism were far less valuable than chosen family connections built on mutual support and genuine affection had been liberating rather than devastating. Tyler's former friends had uniformly abandoned him once his crimes became public knowledge, revealing that his social connections had been as superficial and transactional as his family relationships. The golden child status that had seemed so enviable from my perspective had been built on foundations of deception that crumbled completely when exposed to truth and consequences. The house where we had grown up sold at auction to pay victim restitution, with the proceeds distributed among construction customers and elderly fraud victims who had suffered financial losses. Driving past the property now felt like visiting a museum of dysfunction rather than experiencing nostalgic loss for childhood memories. My own home had become a sanctuary of peace and authenticity where visitors were welcomed based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. The holiday gatherings I hosted for friends, colleagues, and chosen family members demonstrated that celebration and connection were possible without the toxicity that had defined my original family's interactions. The therapy that had helped me process decades of scapegoating and psychological manipulation had revealed patterns I might have unconsciously repeated in future relationships without professional intervention. Understanding the dynamics of favoritism, gaslighting, and emotional abuse had provided tools for recognizing and avoiding similar situations in both personal and professional contexts. Looking back on the night I discovered Tyler's laptop computer and chose to report his crimes despite the personal cost, I felt profound gratitude for the courage that had seemed impossible in the moment. The decision to prioritize elderly victims over family loyalty had led to justice for dozens of people while freeing me from a lifetime of toxic relationships disguised as family bonds. The question that guided my current life decisions was simple but powerful: what would serve the highest good rather than what would maintain family approval? This framework had led to meaningful work, healthy relationships, and personal peace that had been unimaginable during my years as the family scapegoat. So what do you think about family loyalty versus moral responsibility? Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and doing what's right for innocent people? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video if it resonated with your own experiences with family dynamics. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding your authentic path in life. Remember to hit that share button if you know someone who might benefit from hearing about the power of choosing truth over comfort. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you trust your instincts when something feels wrong, even if the people around you insist everything is fine. May you find the courage to speak truth even when it costs you everything, because sometimes losing everything toxic makes room for everything beautiful.